You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. If you want to find the right girlfriend or wife, this video is for you. Today we're going to talk about a super important principle, which is what you put out is what you attract. And not necessarily from a metaphysical point of view, but simply from a cause and effect point of view. What you communicate to the world, how you behave, how you show up in this world as a man, that's exactly what you're going to attract. Today I want to talk about depth and loyalty and the way you achieve really fulfilling and deep relationships, as well as quality male friendships to other men who are extremely loyal, as well as a woman who is extremely loyal and somebody who you can trust. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing you have to understand is that it's not necessarily the odd thought that you have. Because, as Jack Kornfield says, the mind has no pride and it secretes thoughts. When we watch movies like The Secret, or we dabble in spirituality a little bit, we're led to believe that any given thought we have might instantaneously create a reality. But that's not necessarily the case. Yes, the thoughts we have on a consistent basis and the ones we empower, they will eventually create our destiny. Prophecy will become destiny. Our beliefs, our thoughts, they'll dictate our actions, which will create the results we have in our lives. But it's not so much the random thoughts. We're all going to have negative thoughts, frustrated thoughts, fearful thoughts, stressful thoughts, weak thoughts. We're all going to have them every once in a while. What matters is the ones we choose to believe and the ones we act upon. Because whatever you put into your mind on a consistent basis, eventually you will act on, and that will create the results that you have in your life. Let me give you an example. If you are not making it a priority for you in your life to be extremely loyal and to have integrity, to be a man of your word, which I assume you already are, but if you're not making that a classic and super important goal for this year or forever, then you will not attract those types of relationships. Most men have friendships with other men that are absolutely weak, that are fake, that are lukewarm. You know when you can laugh with somebody? I used to have this when I worked in a tech company. These guys, they would joke around with you Friday in a bar when they're drunk, and then Monday morning they'd pretend like they don't even know you. If you can only joke around with somebody, but they're not there for you when things are tough, and also they don't really want to see you win and they talk bad behind your back, those are not truly loyal friendships. Same with a lady, right? Everything's easy when you're paying for dinner, when you're flying around, when you're paying for lifestyle, when you're making love, when it's really exciting. When things are going good, easy. But what happens when you're either not present? How does she talk about you then? How does she express her loyalty towards you in your absence? And also, when you do win, do they encourage you when you win? Because one of the hallmarks of a good friendship is people wanting to see you win. Because a lot of people, they are happy for you as long as you're not doing better than them. The second you get better, and you've experienced that in career or your business, if you're doing well, the second you start doing better than a lot of people, they'll get extremely envious. Some people get a little bit passive-aggressive. And you can really see the envy manifest itself in people where you previously wouldn't have thought it. And they start acting in very, very strange ways. So to counteract that is, the first step is you put it on your vision board. You have a thought recurring in your mind. You make it a goal that you want loyalty, and that you're willing to give it first before you receive it. Same with women. You're willing to give it first before you receive it. Let's stick on male friendships for a second. Whatever you put out, you attract. Now, how do you give loyalty without making yourself vulnerable? Because evidently you're not just going to walk up to a random person and hand them your credit card details. So the way you do that is with small talk. Same in dating, by the way. That's one of the reasons small talk and being fun and emotional and lighthearted is so important. Because you offer people a little bit, you see whether you can trust them with it or not, and then you give them a little bit more, you give them a little bit more, you give them a little bit more. So you offer them a little bit, you offer them a little bit more, you offer them a little bit more. And along the way, you screen for compatibility regarding your values. So you give them a little bit, okay, I can trust them. You give them a little bit more, okay, I can trust with it. And a little bit more, and a little bit more. That's why it takes time, but it actually doesn't take time. It takes a lot of experiences and emotional depth. If you spend an entire weekend camping together with somebody, or you get in a fight with somebody, which hopefully you don't, but in a martial arts context, that bonds you quicker. So it's not just time spent, sorry, it's not just years gone by, but it's how much time you actually spent with that person and the emotional impactfulness of those experiences. But you have to make it a conscious goal for yourself to attract loyalty. Because if you don't, you will end up with lukewarm relationships. And part of the reason most men are so deeply unhappy in this world is because they don't have men they can truly rely on. They don't. Yeah, I know you're going to laugh with them, but are they going to pick you up from the airport? Are they going to be there for you, truly? Right? So make it a goal. And if we talk about depth, right, I said I was going to talk about depth and loyalty. I'm going to expand on that in a second. But to touch on depth, the way you get it is with radical honesty. You shamelessly, same with women, by the way, you shamelessly communicate what you actually believe. And if you really become radically honest, you will notice that you're going to alienate most people. You will alienate most people. If you're a friend with everybody, you're a friend with nobody. And now, on the other hand, you should go out there and socialize. You should go out there and talk to everybody. You got to talk to a lot of women. You got to open your heart first. You got to make yourself vulnerable, not in a way where they can actually damage and hurt you, but you offer yourself, you open your heart. Because if you don't do it, yeah, you're going to keep the pain out, but you're also going to keep life's ultimate joy out. So it seems like two contradicting forces or two opposing paradigms. On the one hand, you do have to open yourself up. You have to offer yourself to the world and to people, because otherwise you'll never find those diamonds. But on the other hand, you have to know that if you actually radically, honestly communicate, most people won't like you. Most people will actually wish for your downfall, or at the very least, they'll have some mild negativity towards you if you put yourself out there in the world as a powerful force. Not powerful in terms of exuding dominance over other people, but powerful in the sense of assuming control over your own mental and emotional state and doing whatever the fuck it is that you want to do. People don't like that. People's entire worldview gets threatened when they see somebody express himself or herself in a very, very powerful way. But it's okay, because it's not zero. There are people in the world who are on the same path. Men in business, when it comes to dating, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to martial arts. There are men out there like that. For example, in our program, we have an unusually high amount of that caliber of people. Successful business owners, men who are crushing it in their career, doctors, lawyers, finance professionals, school principals, right? Guys who run tech companies, guys who run hedge funds. It's a very, very unusual network. And you need to create that for yourself. You can join these types of groups to get access to that. But it's also important to have that globally, for sure. But I want you to have that locally, wherever you live. If you live in the US, you live in Europe, Australia, Canada, it doesn't really matter. You need a local network, because your need for love and connection needs to be met on a weekly basis. You need to spend time with quality male friends every single week. You have to understand, your brain is 300,000 years old. 300,000 years ago already, we were spending 24/7 in the company of our tribe, of other men that we could go hunt with, that were there for our protection. Your brain needs other men around. Yeah, you obviously want an amazing woman by your side, but you also need the other side, because it's one of the greatest sources of happiness. So, yeah, you need to get out there and socialize, but at the same time, when you radically, honestly communicate what you actually believe in, you share your values unapologetically. Hey, I really like freedom of speech. I really don't like censorship, for example. You get what I'm saying? You can imagine the value system that stands behind that if you communicate these things, not necessarily on social media, but in your private conversations, you will find your allies. And most people you'll meet, they're not going to be it, but it doesn't matter. Because if you have to have, and most men have arguments with other men around that shit. I used to do that with my ex-wife as well, who's not a bad person, we just weren't aligned. We constantly argued about basic, fundamental things because our values weren't aligned. We should have never entered that relationship to begin with. But we both didn't screen properly. We both didn't choose from a variety of quality options. That's why you need to go and use online dating and Instagram and in-person approaches to create a lot of quality options for yourself so you can choose. So you're a beggar. So you're not a beggar, because beggars can't be choosers. So if we don't have quality options available to ourselves, then we're going to take what's given to us. But I want you to experience this overflowing feeling of abundance when it comes to relationships. It's so beautiful, and it's available there for you for the taking. And you have to act as if you already had a lot of dates available, as if you already had 20 amazing friends locally. Because if you act as if you maintain the standard and then you open yourself and then you offer yourself, if you do both, then you will actually attract that when you put it out. But it starts with intent. Wayne Dyer, one of the greatest personal development teachers out there ever, he had a presentation many years ago on the power of intention. It starts with intention. You have to hold a thought in your mind consciously and empower it, okay? What you learn in meditation is that you don't identify with thoughts. Most of the suffering that you experience on a day-to-day basis is you associating with thoughts that don't serve you. And as I said in the beginning, the mind secretes thoughts. The mind has no pride. We're all going to have certain thoughts every now and then. But what thoughts do you choose to empower? What thoughts do you choose to associate with? Whatever your intention is on, if it's backed up by strategic and consistent action over time, you will manifest that shit. Not passively sitting there on your meditation pillow in the living room and then having an elephant or a magic relationship or quality friendships appear out of nothingness. No, you will put in a lot of work to get that. Not even that much, 5 to 10 hours a week realistically, for dating as an example. But it starts with a thought. Be very careful what thoughts you hold in your mind, what thoughts you encourage. And most men haven't even understood, as an example of one of those thoughts, the importance of depth and loyalty. If you visualize it and you come from a place of already having it, what would it feel like to already have a beautiful woman by your side? What would it feel like to have a core group of 5 really amazing friends that you see every single week and you're fulfilled and you're happy and you're having experiences? What would that abundance feel like? How would you act if you met somebody new? You'd be coming from a very, very different place. You hold that thought in your mind, and then it has to manifest itself in your behavior. So, if people cross your boundaries, if they disrespect you, you say, hey, up until this point and no further. Up until this point and no further. Why? Because my needs are met. Because you maintain the standard. You set a freaking standard. And if somebody crosses your boundaries, boom, they're fucking gone. Instantaneously, because they're not good for you. If somebody doesn't want to see you win, if somebody's envious, if somebody's passive-aggressive, if somebody's not loyal, they have to go. Or at the very least, you have to understand, well, they're no longer part of that core inner circle, and you move them out. Well, maybe they've moved from close friend to acquaintance. They might say, do I have to have a radically honest conversation with that person? Well, maybe. Might make sense. But if they've done something that's so bad that really violates trust, and that shows that they just don't understand loyalty whatsoever, well, in that case, they've just made themselves redundant. And you don't need to have a conversation with that person because you only need to set boundaries. Hear me now. You only need to set boundaries with people that you want to continue to have a relationship with. If you already know you're going to sort somebody out, there's no reason to have a conversation with them. You just fade them out. You pretend to be busy forever. Or you can just tell them, hey, look, this doesn't make any sense for us. Or if they're still part of the social circle and you still want to navigate it, then you just say, okay, cool, well, they're there now. Most of the time, it actually makes more sense to just cut them out entirely, but there are nuances that do matter. But your life will become so much easier if you just very, very clearly know who's on my side and who isn't. And for some men, it's a really strange concept. How many men do you actually have right now where if you were in deep shit that would drop anything they're doing and fly around the entire world to come get you, right? It's not about actually needing it because most likely you're self-sufficient, but it's fucking great for the brain to know that because our brain works in what-if scenarios. A brain operates under what-if scenarios. What if this happens? Well, then I still have XYZ. It calms you down. Jordan Peterson says we outsource our sanity to the network around us. And it's extremely healthy to diversify the sources for your need for love and connection and to not just rely on one person, ever. Now, when you're in a relationship with a beautiful woman, obviously she will meet your need like nothing else. But you still have to meet quality male friends, because if you don't, what happens if you're unconsciously aware that your need for love and connection is only being fulfilled through her? Well, in that case, you won't be as agreeable. Sorry, you won't be as disagreeable. You'll agree to things you shouldn't agree to. You're not going to set boundaries. You will enter foul compromises. You'll do things you shouldn't have done to begin with. You won't stand up for your needs. You won't communicate your expectations. And then you're going to end up feeling a shell of yourself. But if you have quality male friends that you see on a weekly basis, you actually speak up because you are not afraid. You're not afraid to lose that person. You want her, but you don't need her. Wanting versus needing, absolutely important. You have to understand that desire is perfectly fine. Needing is not. Desire is amazing. Everything starts with a desire. And maybe that's actually a good pathway. Alan Watts says, if you want to elevate in life, you have to start with, what do you desire? What is it that you want? Become crystal clear. And don't just say, I want a relationship. Okay, universe is going to give you a relationship. You have to write down your must-haves, nice-to-haves, and deal breakers. And aim high. Most men artificially limit what they think they can get. You don't even know how low you're aiming. You don't even know how low you're currently aiming regarding a beautiful relationship. You're settling already without having taken any action. Aim high, because that's going to get you excited. If you want to be excited in life, you have to set goals that stretch you. Not impossible. She has to be a perfect 10 in looks, perfect 10 in intelligence, and perfect value and personality compatibility. No, perfect doesn't exist, but you can get close to it. Which of these matter most to you? Must-haves, nice-to-haves, and deal breakers. Really set a goal that excites you. Because progress equals happiness. You don't necessarily have to have achieved the final outcome for you to feel excited about life. It's really not necessary. But making progress towards that goal, just like making progress towards friendships, really, whatever goal it is, that's what makes you feel alive. We are aiming creatures. We're meant to aim high and then move into that direction. Progress equals happiness. So, the question is, what do you desire? What is it that you want? Listen to that a little bit more. Chances are you've spent a lot of time on your business or your career. Over many years, you've neglected yourself. Isn't it time to take care of yourself a little bit? And it's amazing what you've done, and I respect it so much. And probably the people around you have benefited from it. Your family members have benefited from it. Your role model. Doesn't mean you're perfect. And even if you're not doing well in your career yet, maybe in your hobby, maybe you're only starting, wherever you are, you have, if you're watching this, if you're part of this audience, you're probably somebody who has spent years dedicated to some particular task, be that professionally or be that in boxing or in jiu-jitsu or even rock climbing or yoga for that matter. You've already done a lot in that way. And let's say the business and career example. If you've neglected yourself, then maybe now is the time to look after yourself and ask yourself, what do I actually want? Because remember, at the end of your life, you're going to ask yourself one of three questions. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And the did I live component is actually really important. You want to get beautiful experiences, be that with one person or with your friends. But they're not just going to magically manifest themselves from the heavens. You have to pursue them. And especially now that the world is changing and everything is becoming more digitally, it's good to go out into nature and create real experiences with beautiful women and with your male friends. But it starts with desire. It starts with what you put out into the world. And that starts with your thoughts. So consciously monitor the thoughts that you empower, not the ones that every now and then just cross your mind. Those we just acknowledge, like a cloud, or a bee on a beautiful summer's day. They come and we let them go. We let them arise in the space of loving awareness. No, I'm talking about the thoughts you empower. Monitor them. Audit them very, very carefully, because they will end up creating your reality by virtue of your actions.